Hi, welcome to the Gear Garage. My name is Zach, and this is my internet show about whitewater stuff. And today I want to do a more comprehensive show about perimeter lines or grab lines. I call them danger ropes sometimes, or strangle straps. And I did a show about this already that showed a method for doing it. It's something that I think works really well for commercial boating. For commercial rafting, for working as a guide, one of the issues is a company has like 10, 20, 30, 100 boats. So if you have a lot of boats, it's hard to keep all the lines tight on the boats. And the method that I showed in that episode had two separate lines going down the ends with a motor hitch at the end that you could tighten easily. And again, the issue is with commercial boating, they come loose over time for a variety of reasons. For private boaters, if you own one boat, it's pretty easy to keep yours tight. And that's a huge priority. When you're working with these perimeter lines, you definitely want to keep them tight. And in the real world, I see a lot of them loose. And I just want to show you a few things about why you want them tight. One is if it's loose and you fall out, you can get an arm stuck in there or a leg stuck in there and it becomes an entrapment hazard. It's not awesome. And it's pretty common to see perimeter lines this loose out in the real world. So the other issue is you use perimeter lines to stay in the boat or to hold on to the boat, where if it's loose, you're pretty far from the boat. You also use perimeter lines to get back in the boat. And when it's this low, it's really hard to get yourself back in the boat. You want this line tight so you can grab tightly to the boat, and when you go to pull yourself in, you can get yourself back in. So it's really important to have them tight. And I want to show you a few methods that private boaters can use to keep their perimeter lines tight. And one of my favorites that's really simple is just to use a cam strap. And here's a cam strap right here. You need kind of a long one to do this. And to make this method work, you could run a cam strap around the entire boat, get like a 40-foot cam strap if you wanted to, but you can also just do it down the side. And so what I'll do here is just take the strap. It's long, so it's a little bit unwieldy and hard to work with, and just run it through these D-rings, and then back through the D-rings, just like this. And this one is just the perfect length, so that you have a nice line down the side of the boat. It's always tough to get these tight. And the advantage here, if you only want to use it to hold on to the side of the boat or to get back in, you only really need it down the side. You don't need it down the ends. Nobody's jumping in the ends off of the boat, holding on to the ends typically. You have a nice line here, something that you can tighten pretty easily because it's on a cam buckle. This one's not really going in. There we go. If it gets loose, you can tighten it. You can take it off and on really easily. I just put it on in 30 seconds. And it's nice against the boat. And it's really kind of nice if you want a tight perimeter line or a tight line to use flat webbing like this or flat hoopy. It sits nice along the boat. It's hard to get. You can get a hand stuck in there, but it's more difficult with line. And if you get it really tight like this, it's harder to get in. So again, if you hold on to this, you can put yourself back in with this. It's a nice way to go. The downside of this is it's a little tough to grab. It has kind of this sharp edge, so when you're trying to pull yourself in, it kind of hurts your fingers a little bit, which is a consideration. If you ever try to get yourself back in a boat, it's already hard enough, and using the cam strap like this can be difficult. So that is a option. Another thing I recommend is trying just regular hooping like this. This is webbing. This is tubular webbing, so it's stronger, it's stiffer. It's better than cam straps, but you have to use knots. And so a lot of you may not like to use knots. Knots loosen up. Knots are hard to untie. But I'd highly recommend considering taking webbing like this, using it on the side of the boat, or maybe all the way around. But again, the same issue comes up that your fingers, when you're pulling yourself in or even holding on, it kind of hurts against your fingers. Again, it sounds wimpy, but typically when you're holding onto a boat or pulling yourself in, it's cold out, your adrenaline's high. You want kind of the easiest possible thing to get back in the boat. So what I'd recommend everybody do, and what I'm a big fan of for perimeter lines is using thick rope. And there's a couple ropes you can choose from. I mean, you can just go buy rope. Any rope will work. I use this rope for a lot of stuff. This is Sterling grab line. I think this is 5/16. Let's see. Yeah, I think it's 5/16 grab line. It's called grab line because it's easy to grab, and I use this quite a bit. The problem with the rope is it's kind of hard. It stretches a lot, and so this isn't the most the stiffest line. And so I would recommend, instead of working with a thinner rope, working with something a little bit thicker. Thicker ropes tend to have less stretch, and when you hold on to it, when you're on the side of a boat holding on to it, it just feels better. Thick ropes are nice to work with. And again, if you want to pull yourself back in the boat with this rope, it's just kind of nice to have something thick and stiff for that. So this is actually a pretty expensive rope, but you know, for adding it onto a $3,000 raft, spending $80 on a good grab line is probably a good idea. So I'm going to show you a method for tying it all the way around the raft that I think works pretty well and is pretty simple. So first of all, on the very end of the boat, you could use a number of things to tie it off. You could do half of a double fisherman's, or it has another name for it, not butterfly, but you could attach it with half of a double fisherman's. You could just use a simple bowline. I'm a big fan of a figure eight, like this, and so this is a figure eight follow through. Tie a figure eight in the end, put it through here, and just follow it through. And I like the figure eight follow through because it's easy to tie. It's a very efficient knot, and if you have to untie it someday, it's not the worst to untie either. It's just a good knot. And of course, like when you tie all your knots, making it pretty looks important. I call it dressing. So you want to make this knot look really pretty. Have like a 6-inch lead off the end. Make sure that you can't get a hand stuck in this hole. And that's just a good way to tie a rope off, whether you're doing a bow line off the end or doing your line around the outside. And then just take this rope, which this rope's going to be like, 30 feet long. It's a lot of rope. It's going to take you time to get it through all these D-rings. And this is where having a boat with a lot of D-rings is really nice, because you want these distances to be small as possible. So I'm just going to slowly here put it through the D-rings, and again, this takes a little bit of time. So once you've got it all the way around, then you want to go in around the boat and just really tighten this up. This takes a second, but just pull these pretty tight. You want to pull up all the slack in the boat. All the slack in the rope. Now, I've done this with the boat slightly deflated, and so when it inflates all the way, it's going to tighten a little bit more, which is a really good thing. It might also be a really good idea to get this rope wet first, because the rope's going to stretch a little bit when it's wet. So again, when you do this, like maybe get the rope wet, have the boat a little bit inflated, and then tie it off. So if you want to take a little bit of time, you can tie another knot on the end that's sort of like a figure eight follow through, or a bowline, a solidly attached knot. It takes some practice, because you have to get that knot exactly right so when it blows up it's tight. And over time, the rope's going to loosen up a little bit and have to retie that knot. So a really easy solution for this is just using a trucker's hitch. A trucker's hitch is a pretty easy knot to tie. If you need to tighten it up, it takes about 30 seconds to tighten it up, if you know how to tie it. This is a knot that everybody who boats, I think, should know how to tie. And it's a solid knot for tying gear down, for tying boats down. And I'm not going to teach you how to tie it right now. I'm just going to tie one. But you can probably Google trucker's hitch and find out how to tie it. It's not that big of a deal once you know how to do it. The nice thing about a trucker's hitch is it effectively creates a 3-to-1. It's sort of like a Z-rig for knots, and so you can really crank on it tight. And then you tie it off with, I tie it off with 2 half hitches and a bite, but you can tie it off with whatever you want. And so this rope's pretty tight around here right now. Well, it's a little loose, but that is surprisingly loose. So what I'll probably do to get it really tight is go around one more time, untie this, go around one more time, and just really tighten these things up one more time around, and then tie the trucker's hitch in there and get it as tight as possible. And you could have a friend even go around and pull on those while you're doing it. The key is making sure that this rope is tight all the way around. Again, there's a trucker's hitch. But it's going to be tight here. And that's how you want it. You want it like that. You should feel it like that against the boat. And this is a solid way to tie this on. The nice thing about this is you can grab onto it really easily. It's tight, so if you pull yourself up in the boat with it, it's going to stay tight to the boat. And again, this thick rope is really nice to grab onto. I'll put a link in the notes down below about where to get this rope with a link on Amazon where to buy it. So that's a really nice method for doing lines all the way around your boat. I just want to reiterate, you don't have to have this line. This is something that people like to use, again, to hold on to the boats if they fall out, to pull themselves back in, or to pick the boat up. Another thing that works equally well, or pretty close as well, are handles. And so a lot of your rafts have handles, and so for me as a guide, I learned to swim to a handle. So I don't just swim in the middle, I know the handles are at the corner, so I'll swim to a handle. Handles are rigidly attached, so you can pull yourself up with them. And I've practiced a lot getting back in the boat with the handle. You can lift the boat with a handle, and so I personally think handles do most of what these lines do. But there are reasons to have a line like this, and there's something to consider for your raft. So that's pretty much it for strangle straps or danger lines or whatever you want to call them. And if you have more to add, as always, please add comments in the comment section below. And yeah, thanks for joining me.